Hey, welcome everybody. Micah here, just setting up another live stream for an editing session. So we're going to be hopping into Premiere today. I've sort of done some initial edits, but wanted to show a different part of the process. This video is a little bit different than stuff that we've done in the past. Oops, actually, sorry. I'm like trying to post this at the same time. Give it 1 second. But yeah, so we're going to be going through the video piece by piece. The reason that this video is a little bit different is because it involves more B-roll. So we're going to be taking stuff that we have recorded prior and overlaying that footage over whatever Allie's saying as part of the video. So a little bit different, but it should be very interesting nonetheless. We have a lot of footage, like over an hour's worth of footage to sort of comb through to pick out that B-roll. And it's going to be a joint video with another one that's going to be coming up. And so we want to make sure that we're using different video footage than what we've already been using. So anyway, sorry, let me just post this real quick and then we'll get started. So there we go. All right, let me bring you over. I've decided to sort of switch up how I'm showing this. Before I was just showing the window, but I'm just going to show you my whole screen because it'll be easier to, you'll actually be able to see all the menus that I'm selecting. So let's hop over here. Okay. There we go. So before we get into editing, just real quick, if you're joining at the beginning, we sort of announced it on the community tab and on different social media, but if you want to check out our new store that we have, let me just show you what that looks like real quick. So we've got a bunch of different fun designs. You can find that link on social media. Just fun stuff that we created. We're not trying to make any money off of this, so it's priced affordably, which is nice, but worth checking out. Anyway, all right, let's get into it. So the video is about participating in a study and what that looks like, what that feels like. Allie was involved in a study with some of her classmates, and we thought that it would be worth it to actually take a look at it, actually see how it's working out. Sorry, I'm just seeing that somebody's saying that it's not, the link is not working for them, so let's try this out. I'm going to click on it just to see. Oh yeah, it's not working. Look at that. All right. Let me try sending the link directly to them. Apologize for the delay. Okay. Hopefully that link works. Okay, so you can see the entire timeline here. If I zoom out, the video is going to be about 8 minutes long, or a little bit more than 8 minutes. 8 minutes and let's say 15 seconds. That is prior to adding some of the interview that we have, and then we have B-roll and other stuff to add at the, on top of it. So it'll probably be under 10 minutes, I would guess, or maybe a little bit after 10 minutes, but which is longer. But compared to our like ADHD video that just went up, that one was 16 minutes long or so. So anyway, let's hop right into it and just see where we're at. I know this first part Allie's talking about.
If you live near a college campus or ride the bus or
signs.
train to work, it's pretty common to see signs like these around, saying things like, "Are you an adult woman with asthma? You may qualify for this research study."
All right, so there I need to actually go out and record some B-roll of, we're actually near a college campus, so B-roll of these signs because they're actually around here.
There are all kinds of medical and research opportunities out there, but I bet most of you never take up the offer to participate. And that's fine, I don't blame you. It seems like kind of a scary, unknown thing. What if it's a ploy to lure me in and harvest my organs? Okay, maybe not, but it does seem daunting, mostly just because it's not something we do every day. Well, recently.
Okay, so here's where we're gonna start hopping into the B-roll. Well, recently, just pulling out my notebook. I want to take down notes of things that I still need to do for the video. Here we go. So far we need B-roll of the signs. So study signs. We might need B-roll of college campus. Maybe a bus or a train. Bus or train. Or maybe both. Okay. Just want to keep a good list of that so that we can actually access it. Okay. Wonderful. Sorry, I'm going to be hopping back and forth just seeing if there's any oh, dang, we got a whole bunch of comments. So Martin is saying it would be interesting to see a video in which we showed the morphological differences between the astrocytes of humans and chimpanzees and mice, and it would help to highlight why human consciousness is so special. That'd be interesting. You know, we use mouse models in a lot of research. For example, Allie's research looks at mouse models into different neurodegenerative diseases, essentially, and uses them to see if there are particular proteins or other factors that are affecting outgrowth of astrocytes, which might affect the functioning of neurons. And so, you know, they're similar enough that if you do find something in the mouse model, you can then go on and look in human models and do human trials if that's something that you want to pursue. So I'd be interested to know that myself. I'm not the neuroscientist, so maybe Allie would be better suited to talk more about that, but yeah, that sounds interesting. Oh, and you say that it is something that's well known for people who study astrocytes, so worth looking into for sure. And for neurons that are not so very different from mice, we do have longer dendrites, but the differences between our astrocytes and theirs are staggering. And Austin then asks, am I a neuroscientist? And I'm not a neuroscientist. I do psychology work, I guess you could call it. I'm a therapist, and that's my area of focus. And then, of course, I do this video stuff on the side, just for fun. But Allie is the neuroscientist, and she does the neuroscience research. So with our powers combined, we create neurotransmissions. All right. So right here is a good place where I was just about to say, recently I participated in a study, more or less.
Well, recently, a couple of my friends, Maggie and Steph, asked me to be a subject in their pilot study for a new project that they're working on.
All right, so we need to do, we're going to jump over to this extra footage tab. And we have sort of two big chunks here. So over on this side we have, if you can see that, we have the interview section with them. And over on this side we have B-roll. And you can see it clocks in at 1 hour and 10 minutes, although there's a nice space here where there's nothing, so maybe just about an hour. So for this first part we want B-roll. We'll hop over to interview in a little bit when they start talking about their study. So we've got Allie getting scanned by a wand, which we're actually going to use that later on because she talks about that in particular. We have, I'm just filming B-roll. Just keep.
You should get the inside of the machine too without the.
They're just sort of talking. What I really want is a good shot of both of them together, so that we can, because we're talking about both Maggie and Steph, so that's not particularly good. This might be better. I really just want both of them.
Alright, go ahead.
No. Let's see here. I'm just hopping around trying to find some good footage with both of these folks. We might be limited. So Steph had to leave a little bit early to catch the bus. So I think we'll have to look at this earlier B-roll footage right around this area. I'm just filming B-roll. You just keep.
You should get the inside of the machine too without the camera. Oh yeah, actually this back here is kind of fun to look at.
Okay. I'm just not terrible. We're not really like focused. Could go. Both of them kind of closer. No. It's all good for later stuff. Okay. This is pretty good. Okay, this might be perfect.
Okay, so this is your button box. So during the experiment, you're going to press button 1 with this blue button here if you see a repeating image, okay?
Okay, just the one button.
Yep, just the one button.
Alright.
And what's the other one? This is your emergency squeeze ball.
Okay.
So during the experiment, if anything goes wrong, if you feel uncomfortable...
See, this is also footage that we might keep for later. What we kind of want is just both of them by themselves.
Yeah, do the instructions again. Okay.
Well, maybe the same person. We have you do both times.
Okay, same thing again. And then I'm in there. We actually won't need that footage. Delete that. Okay. It's just Maggie because Steph is left. Alright, so we're really limited in terms of usable footage with both of them. Maybe we can pull from this. I'm just filming B-roll. You just keep.
You should get the inside of the machine too without the magnet. Oh yeah, actually this back here is kind of fun to look at.
Okay. I'm just. That could work right there. Not great footage, to be honest. That's all the same. That's all part of the same stuff. We're gonna use it for now. So we'll cut right here.
Back here is kind of fun to look at.
Okay.
So the coil would go around this, right?
Yeah, that's not fantastic. Oops. But we're gonna grab it. We're gonna try it out. What happened here? Why didn't it cut properly? So cut here, and then cut there. Alright, so let's try that out. So bring it on this higher level here. And what? All this. Keep it clean. And we'll paste that in.
Asked me to be a subject.
Let's add it right there.
Recently, a couple of my friends, Maggie and Steph, asked me to be a subject in their pilot study for a new. A couple of my friends, Maggie and Steph,
cut that there, go back, oops. And I think we should put in the part where they're helping her out with the study. Oops. Okay, so there's that piece. This might be good, so let's add this. And we'll do that right there. Oh, that's what these are cutting in, okay. And these aren't linked, so we'll link that, copy it, bring it over. And that should take care of the remainder of the time that we need.
Recently, a couple of my friends, Maggie and Steph, asked me to be a subject in their pilot study for a new project that they're working on. So I
Ooh, okay, I get it. So let's put it here, and then, because then she'll say,
asked me to be a subject in their pilot study for a new project that they're working on. So I took the chance to be a part of the science, and I wanted to share my experience of being a research subject with all of you. I know Maggie.
Okay, cut that there. Let's go back to the footage. We need something else to include. Kind of like here. Funny enough, I think I used this footage in the other video.
I have no idea why AT&T would have. It's just crazy sometimes the things that come out. Why is AT&T
Yeah, I think I did use that. That's fine. We're going to put it in there as a temporary placeholder. So, grab that there. Is that going to look weird?
A couple of my friends, Maggie and Steph, asked me to be a subject in their pilot study.
That is a little bit weird. So we're going to actually remove this first clip and try this instead.
A couple of my friends, Maggie and Steph, asked me to be a subject in their pilot study for a new project that they're working on. So I took.
Okay, I like this other part.
Recently.
Let's try that. Oh, it sort of ends there. Alright, we'll drag that out.
A couple of my friends, Maggie and Steph, asked me to be a subject in their pilot study for a new project that they're working on. So I took the chance.
We'll end it there. Okay, we'll drag that back. Okay, that should be.
A couple of my friends, Maggie and Steph, asked me to be a subject in their pilot study for a new project that they're working on. So I took the chance to be a part of the science, and I wanted to share my experience of being a research subject with all of you. I know.
Okay. So
I know, Maggie.
we're gonna have to move some stuff around here. We're gonna do really broad strokes first and see how much B-roll we use, and then we might come back and grab from the stuff that we've already got collected. I don't want to overuse at the start because then that might leave us with nothing later on. So let's just go through and do
I know
broad strokes.
Maggie and Steph because they're both students in the same graduate program as me. It's pretty common for students who use human subjects in their research to ask their friends to help
need to roll
out.
for this.
I've actually been asked to help out with other research studies in their lab, but wasn't able to make it work because of scheduling issues. I've always wanted to participate because their lab uses functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI, to study the brain. And I've always been curious about what it's like to be in an fMRI scanner. As an added bonus, I knew that...
Okay, we can add in some B-roll there. Always wanted to know what it's like to be inside an fMRI scanner. And then we can actually show her... Although I think we... do that. Oops.
I bet. You can hear?
Alright, so we'll grab that piece. Right there, we don't really need the audio because we're not going to actually keep the audio.
And I've always been curious about what it's like to be in an fMRI scanner. As an added bonus, I knew that they'd do an anatomical scan of my brain. And I wanted to know what my brain looked like.
Alright, so we've got some footage of Maggie looking at brains. There we go. So we could use that footage here. Yeah, so that's footage of her brain. Let's get to... So we can copy that and bring it over. It's going to be too long, but we just want a certain section.
Understanding how our brains decide what we should focus on.
Let's just do this.
Scan of my brain. And I wanted to know what my brain looked like. Anyway, I talked with Maggie and Steph, and I knew that they'd do an anatomical scan of my brain. And I wanted to know what my brain looked like. Anyway,
Cut there. The honest truth is we might have to do some more B-roll to sort of cover in or fill in some of these gaps, but that's alright. Just like go back and film some more. Okay. Anyway, so she says, so she wanted to know what a scan of her brain looked like, and we actually have footage of that somewhere. It's not that, but it's, where was it? Here. Yeah. This actually got used in the other video too, if I'm not mistaken. That's kind of cool footage. Just that piece. Grab that, put it in here. We've got to be real deliberate about what we're grabbing. So just shorten this on the end, bring it over here. Let's see how that looks and sounds.
MRI scanner. As an added bonus, I knew that they'd do an anatomical scan of my brain. And I wanted to know what my brain looked like. Anyway, I talked with Maggie and Steph, and they gave me a summary of what they're interested in researching. They're studying how our brains pay attention to the world around us. And, in particular, they're interested in understanding how our brains decide what we should focus on. They look at how...
Okay, here we can add in some interview footage. I'm not going to go through the interview footage right now. I'm just going to leave a blank space so that we can remember to come back to that later. Oh, come on. Oh, it's not selected this way. Okay.
They look at how the human brain responds during different attention and decision-making tasks. You can learn more about how they use fMRI.
Okay. So we could cut that part. And then we're going to be pointing to this other video.
After saying I was on board, Maggie, Steph, and I picked an evening when the fMRI scanner was available, since many different researchers use the same machine. To prepare, I was told to wear comfortable clothing.
Here we can just have her hanging out, talking with them. I think we saw that footage earlier on. Nope. Around here. Yeah.
Alright, go ahead and...
Nope. Almost actually.
Alright, go ahead.
What does she say? Wear comfortable clothing.
Remove any jewelry, and to wear contacts instead of glasses. This is because the fMRI machine uses a giant...
Okay.
Go ahead and take off your watch and your glasses, your rings, hand those to me.
So we'll just do this.
Hand those to me. Won't need those in the scanner. Your nose ring, perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, and for the earplugs? Yes.
Alright. We'll copy that. Paste it over here. See what that looks like.
Is a giant...
Oh no, there we go.
Remove any jewelry. Prepare, I was told to wear comfortable clothing, remove any jewelry, and to wear contacts instead of glasses. This is because the fMRI machine uses a...
So we'll just put in some more B-roll. It's sort of a transitional period. She's saying giant.
Nice, we'll put it.
So here's the earplug part. I think she talks about that in a little bit.
Giant magnet to track blood flow in the brain. So you don't want to wear anything metal in the scanner or it might get, well, pulled right off your body. When I arrived at the special facility where the machine is housed, Maggie and Steph explained the activity to me. Essentially, while I fixated on one...
Okay.
When I arrived at the special facility where the machine is housed, Maggie and Steph explained the activity to me. Essentially, while I fixated on one point, faces would flash on the...
Just gonna be making some notes for myself for stuff that is lacking or things like sort of a wish list, I guess, for B-roll. Let's see here. So Rick asked if I add text or annotated images at the very end, and where do I get those added graphics? And what about transitions, effects? So I haven't gotten to any animated text yet in this video because right now we're just trying to do, we're just trying to work on B-roll, and the B-roll will actually remove the need for text sort of flying on. So if you can't, actually this is kind of a cheat or a tip, but if you're making a video and you want to reduce the amount of animation work that you have to do, or at least in our case, this is sort of specific to us, do B-roll, because then you can have something interesting for the audience to look at, and you don't have to spend a lot of time kind of, adding the animations, making sure that they're lining up properly, all that good stuff. I do add the animations later on. I use After Effects for that. And as for like transitions and stuff, that's all done in After Effects as well. I don't really use, like, over here in Premiere you do have some video transitions, but I don't really use these. I find them to be kind of cheesy looking, so I just do hard cuts and occasional wipes with colors, like a green wipe will come across, and then I'll use that clean slate to display some sort of animation. But in general, the animating comes later on, so right now we're just trying to fill in B-roll. So let's go in and continue on, shall we?
To track blood flow in the brain. So you don't want to wear anything metal in the scanner, or it might get, well, pulled right off your body. When I arrived at the special facility where the machine is housed, Maggie and Steph explained the activity to me. Essentially, while I fixated...
Sorry, I'm just taking notes of what I want. So it'd be really nice to have some B-roll of the outside of the building, or even the hallway leading to this fMRI machine. Okay. Great.
On one point, faces would flash on the screen, and I would have to press a button if the face I was seeing was the same as the face before it. This sound...
Okay, we actually have footage of that, I think at the end here. Here we go. So, let's see what's all in here.
Trial, and it's always the same image of all three flashes.
Okay.
So the trials, you have to compare between trials, basically. So like that was one trial.
Right.
And the next one, you compare if the next face you see flashing is
If that's
the same as the previous
that
face.
look the same, but the point is that they look similar, right?
And they look quite similar.
Wow.
So now he's gonna zoom in.
That's like,
Yeah, it's a hard task. Allie was surprisingly good at it, actually.
I think I would be bad at this.
Yeah. You also have to fixate on this little dot.
Oh.
You have to keep your eyes very still
Really?
on that black dot the whole time.
Interesting. That's even harder than.
It makes it a lot harder because you
move your
can't
eyes
really
around.
like scan the face.
Yeah.
It's all peripheral. So
Crazy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so he's gonna be really close. This is actually perfect. This is what we want. So we'll come in there.
That's awesome. Well, those are all really similar.
yeah.
That was different.
Interesting.
That's cool.
Oops. All right, let's grab that. Overlay it over here.
brain. Essentially, while I fixated on one point, faces would flash on the screen, and I would have to press a button if the face I was seeing was the same as the face before it. This sounds pretty easy. Essentially, while I fixated on one...
I don't know if it's kind of shaky up close, so we might do something from farther away.
The point is that they look similar, right?
Yeah, they look quite similar.
Wow, that does look very similar. That's like.
Yeah, it's a hard task. Allie was surprisingly good at it, actually.
I think I would be bad at this.
Yeah. You have to-
So here's what we'll do. Grab here.
This.
Yeah. You also have to fixate on this little dot.
Oh,
You have to keep
okay.
your eyes very still
Really?
on that black dot the whole time.
Okay, so she's pointing at the dot, which is good,
It makes
and
it a lot
then
harder because you can't really like scan the face.
and then we get that second piece. So we're gonna copy that. That's a little long. Blah 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 blah.
Activity to me. Essentially, while I fixated on one point, faces would flash on the screen, and I would have to press a button if the face I was seeing was the same as the face before it. This sounds pretty easy, but the faces were...
Okay, now I don't really want to be in that corner there, so I'm gonna try and move this slightly so that I'm out of the view. So we'll move that up, and we'll really focus on this on the screen.
Essentially, while I fixated on one point, faces would flash on the screen, and I would have to press a button if the face I was seeing was the same as the face before it. This sounds pretty...
There we go. That's better. Alright, AVI12 asked if I can make the next video 60 frames per second. So we can do 60 frames per second on our camera, but I don't really see a reason to do it. If we go to 60 frames per second, it diminishes the quality of the video. So right now I'm editing in 4K, which is really nice because this is 54 or 57% of the video quality. So I could zoom up to 100% and move this around wherever I want, and I won't lose the definition, the quality, and I won't add grain to my shot. So we keep it at 4K and film it 24 frames per second because it allows that flexibility. So we edit in 2K but shoot in 4K, if that makes sense. So if I edited at 1080, I could get even more flexibility, but hasn't really been necessary. 2K's been pretty substantial. So anyway, I can't film 4K at 60 frames per second because the camera just doesn't have that capacity. So that's why we do 24 frames a second. I also find 60 frames per second to be a little bit unsettling to look at. And it's also hard to combine with other kinds of footage. So if somebody else, stock footage isn't shot in 60 frames per second, or if we're collaborating with somebody else, they don't shoot at 60 frames per second. So it's much easier to meld the different kinds of footage together when we shoot at 24 frames per second. All right. Moving right along. Oops, what happened here? Okay. So
This sounds pretty easy, but the faces were actually all very similar. Researchers had altered and combined 4 different photographs so that they could actually be arranged on a wheel. They were either more white or more Asian in appearance, and either more female or more male. The whole goal was to track how well I was able to discriminate between the different faces, even though they sometimes looked very similar. After going over the task,
Alright, so I'm making a note for myself to see if I can get the images from Steph or Maggie that they use in the research. It might not be possible just because, it might be proprietary, property or proprietary, whatever you call that. But anyway, it might belong to somebody else, or they might not want to share it just to keep the research sort of pure. But no harm in asking. And if they can't give it, then we can just sort of make something up, and demonstrate a similar concept of combining faces. You asked how long I've been editing videos. I've been editing videos for a while. I started out just doing stupid, fun videos, you know, things that I thought were interesting. So, you know, when I was really young, making music videos with my little brother and editing those on Windows Movie Maker, really low tech, just lip syncing, and then you put the audio track on the bottom and, you know, try and line it up. And then in college, I started to get into After Effects because I was watching these videos by Andrew Kramer, who does Video Copilot, who is a very good teacher, I think, of different effects. And he did fun ones, you know, like your head explodes or you get struck by lightning or whatever it might be. And I thought that that was fun and wanted to do that myself and use it in short films. And so I learned that and then just sort of kept on going. I had a few different YouTube channels where I'd put up either short films or they were oriented to a specific hobby, and would make videos on that. And then finally Allie and I decided to do neurotransmissions, and we've just been doing that ever since. And I still do stuff on the side, so I'll do freelance work, but for the most part neurotransmissions is, you know, that occupies the most time. It takes the most time to put out. It's the thing that I actually enjoy doing the most, to be honest. Like, the freelance work is fun, but if it were a choice between only doing one or the other, neurotransmissions is a lot more fun because I feel like I have more control. Rick says, it seems like I keep each shot about 4 to 10 seconds long before changing it. Is that a rule of thumb? Also, you will zoom in and out for artificial shot changes. Is this to keep people's attention? Yes. So the length is sort of determined by breaks that Allie takes, essentially. So you're not going to get a 100% clean take when somebody's going through their script, right? Allie actually does a really good job. Like, she is able to consistently say everything that we have written and give a really good take. But there will be breaks for breaths, or you forget what the line is, or you misread something, whatever it might be, and there's a mess up. And so you have to, like, redo that shot. For me, I like to keep it snappy, keep it quick, keep people's attention, and so my editing style has led me to cut out most breaths between sentences or between thoughts, if that makes sense. So, like, you might have things that lead into each other, and I'll just keep that as one solid take, but then cut when it changes gears or when it goes in a different direction. And I do artificially zoom in or out just to make it interesting, or because maybe we're bringing in an animation on the right hand side, and, you know, I'll move Allie over to one side so that we have enough space to fill in this side of the screen. So those are little things that I'll do just to help keep the audience entertained, hopefully, but also keep it interesting for myself. I really do edit kind of for myself more than anything. So I'll think to myself, is this interesting, or am I losing attention? And if I'm losing attention, then I change what I'm doing to make it more interesting. So yeah, anyway, that's the fun stuff. Let's keep going on.
Be easy, but the faces were actually all very similar. Researchers had altered and combined 4 different photographs so that they could actually be arranged on a wheel. They were either more white or more Asian in appearance, and either more female or more male. The whole goal was to track how well I was able to discriminate between the different faces, even though they sometimes looked very similar.
Alright, so here we can put in some B-roll where she's trying to discriminate. So she's, like, doing the activity, so we want footage of her inside the fMRI scanner. You know, let me see. Excuse me. I think we've got some video that we haven't incorporated here. Shoot, where did I put that? So we had some GoPro footage. Ooh, I hope I didn't get rid of that. One moment. So, crap. I may have accidentally deleted some of this B-roll footage. Trying to find it and see if we can scrounge it up. So we had another guy who was helping us during this video, Brian, and he took some great GoPro footage. And now I can't find it. Just let me text him real quick. See if maybe he's got it still. If he doesn't, it's not that big of a deal, but it would be nice to use it. All right. I'm hoping he has that. We'll see what he says. Okay, we'll come back to that because there was some actual good footage of Allie going into the fMRI scanner, which is kind of neat. All right, let's go back here.
Goal was to track how well I was able to discriminate between the different faces, even though they sometimes looked very similar.
So we can still get some footage of her in the scanner. Let's see where that's at. There's a lot of good stuff here that we could put in. Yeah. Here we go. Maybe here.
Okay, it's a little hard to do that when I can only see myself in the mirror.
That's fair.
Oop. It's like trying to focus. Seems like a better spot there. Cut it right there. Oops, I keep doing that. We'll zoom in and grab that piece. Boom. And paste it on.
I was able to discriminate. The goal was to track how well I was able to discriminate between the different faces, even though they sometimes looked very similar. After going over the task, I had to fill out a waiver to verify.
Okay, so we have footage of her filling out a waiver somewhere. Here we go.
Be filling it out,
Oh,
and
okay,
I'm
yeah.
imagining like almost a slow pan just to like show what's on it.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
like a
See,
nice
there's an
close-up.
interesting
Yeah,
shot
or,
in here
or
somewhere.
even, you know, you could do a close-up and then maybe one of me just like filling it out, but so.
Why are you so blurry? There we go. Okay, so we'll start there. Her there. I want to start where the pan starts, maybe right there. That's fine. Okay, grab that footage, bring it over, paste it in.
After going over the task, I had to fill out a waiver to verify that I don't have any health conditions that...
And we'll grab more of this waiver footage. I think I got... right there. That footage is shaky as hell, but that's fine. We can actually smooth that out slightly in post.
that I don't have any health conditions that would make it dangerous for me to go into the fMRI machine or disrupt its ability.
So Rick asked, how often does Allie or anyone involved have to do voiceover later for correction or other reasons? We hardly ever do any voiceover, to be honest, or, you know, if there are corrections that need to happen and we notice it after we've done filming, because, I mean, everything in the script should be correct, right? That's sort of the idea, is like, get it right when you're writing, and that way you don't have to worry about it later on. But if we were to encounter an error while we were editing, and it has happened, then we have to decide how we want to address that. So one way that you could address it is by having text appear on the screen that says, you know, correction, you know, this is what is actually the truth. If it's not essential, we can just totally cut it, like cut that line or whatever where it's not accurate. Yeah, those are kind of the two choices that you have. Yeah, you really gotta. To be honest, the place where we make the most mistakes is where I'm editing the video and I visualize something incorrectly. So, like, let's say, just as an example, this isn't a real example, but let's say that we're doing a video on active potentials, and the way that I visualize how an active potential happens is wrong. It is not an accurate representation. Then I would just have to change it, essentially, at that point, and that's always a bummer when that happens. So I try to keep Allie in the loop whenever I start working on a visualization, or ask her questions and say, you know, would it look like this? Would it look like that? So that as we're going through, you know, we're doing it right from the start, because then it could be hours more work to try and correct it later on. So, yeah.
Or disrupt its ability to do the scan, and to make sure that I would fit inside the machine comfortably. The bed.
So there we've got some breaths. So Rick, if you're paying attention here, we got a few breaths, and I had left this all together because it's all one thought. So let me just play that for you.
Health conditions that would make it dangerous for me to go into the fMRI machine, or disrupt its ability to do the scan, and to make sure that I would fit inside the machine comfortably.
Okay, so
the bed.
So I could, if I have B-roll over that, I could just like take out a little bit of that breath, just a little bit, just to speed it up just a tiny bit. We'll see how it works out though. Okay, so we've got some of this footage. She is talking about disrupting the scan. I don't think we need that necessarily. I mean,
I don't want to like include the actual details.
Yeah,
of
no,
the
that's fine.
surgery, so.
we can cut there too. That's a nice segment. We'll grab that and put it on. One of these is probably going to go. So we got a lot of survey filling out.
After going over the task, I had to fill out a waiver to verify that I don't have any health conditions that would make it dangerous for me to go into the fMRI machine, or disrupt its ability.
Yeah, we'll probably delete that one. Okay. Get this guy back over.
To verify that I don't have any health conditions that would make it dangerous for me to go into the fMRI machine, or disrupt its ability to do the scan, and to make sure that I would fit inside the machine comfortably.
So it says, and we're going to cut right on that. And here we're going to put in Allie entering the scanner, perhaps. Seems like it would be a good addition. Let's go back. Let's see. So she has buttons and stuff. The buttons. Actually, I'm gonna pull into the second area so that I can remember to use it later on. This is all good stuff, actually, because it's all this preparation and whatnot. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, this isn't bad.
Way better. Start like this. Cool. Alright, Micah,
Yeah.
I could ask you.
To move?
Well, I guess it doesn't matter.
Alright, we're gonna grab that. Paste it in here. Let's see what that looks like.
And to make sure that I would fit inside the machine comfortably. The bed used for the scans is pretty narrow, and the space inside is kind of claustrophobic, so it's...
Okay.
The bed used for the scans is...
So we're gonna cut on pretty narrow. And... okay, we've got that GoPro in view, so we're gonna try and find another shot. Just like explaining everything to us. I'm in there, we don't need any of that. Alright, that's no good. We need, footage alley. Okay, here we go. This might be good.
Maggie, do you want to try and wedge some?
So we can slide it. Yeah, why don't we slide it down? I think it's easier if you just push it. I don't have my earplugs in anymore. Does it matter?
No, should be fine. Let me just, So that's good. That's good stuff. All right. Sorry, I'm like watching what's happening. Okay, we'll cut right around here. And grab that. Put on there.
The bed used for the scans is pretty narrow, and the space inside is kind of claustrophobic, so it's...
Cut it there. Says it's definitely not for everyone. Okay. Where am I looking? Okay. Grab this.
kind of claustrophobic, so it's definitely not for everyone.
I bet.
Finally, they used a metal detector wand. Finally, they used a metal.
So we used this footage already, it looks like, over here. So we won't use the same footage. We can just lengthen out this clip.
So it's definitely not for everyone. Finally, they used a metal. They used a metal.
Okay. So now we'll go back, find that metal detector footage, which I think is here. Yeah.
Okay,
Maybe we can do that when we're doing the black box scene.
we're ready to go.
Alright, so first. Alright, so first we have to make sure they don't have any metal on you. It's looking like you're passing.
Alright, we're gonna grab that, paste it in.
They used a metal detector wand, just like the kind a security guard might use, to check and make sure that I didn't have any forgotten metal on my body. And then we went into my body.
Okay, we're gonna cut right on that. And then
We went into the scanner. As Maggie and Steph set up the bed,
okay. And then we went into the scanner. And then we went into the scanner. So they do this a few times where they give the directions and whatnot. So we're gonna go to the last version of that.
Yeah, do the instructions again. Okay. Well, maybe the same person. And we have you do it both times just for continuity.
Sure.
No, true.
Sure.
Yeah. Good point. Alright.
Alright, Allie. Alright, Allie, this is your button box. This is how you're going to respond during the experiment.
Okay.
So this blue button here, you're going to...
Let's see actually what order she does this in.
I put in earplugs to protect my ears from the loud noises the machine makes. The machine uses a giant electromagnet to perform the fMRI scan, and while it's running, it makes a very loud clicking sound, so the earplugs are important. Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and Maggie and Steph covered me with a blanket. That part is optional, but it gets pretty chilly in the scanner room.
Okay. So she's talking about a few different things. Receiving the button box. So earplugs, button box, blanket. So we'll try to put them in that order more or less. Rick, you're saying when talking, is Allie reading off an iPad or like teleprompter and still looking at the camera? Do you ever do shots from other angles, not looking at the camera when she's in lecture mode? So we have a teleprompter that we use most of the time. Sometimes, you know, it's just like freewheeling, but most of the time we use a teleprompter, and you know, it's just like using the script and trying to read off in a way that's natural and engaging. And we don't do other angles. That's something that I want to look into. I probably wouldn't do it for Allie because I don't necessarily think that would add much, but I would do it for interviews because for Allie, she's, you know, it is scripted, it's going off of what we already have. There's not that necessary need to have an extra shot. It might be a little bit visually interesting and different, but where you really want to use that is with interviews, because interviewees are less concise and you need more opportunities to be able to cut, right? So that's the real reason for doing these separate shots, is to like be able to move from one to the other and make everything seem like they're saying it in one steady flow. So that's why I would love to have a second camera. We don't have a second camera. We do have a second camera, but it's not at the same quality, so it would look weird to go between the two. And I would love to have it in interview situations, but thus far it hasn't been possible. Someday we'll get a second camera, and it'll make filming that much easier. It'd be nice to have a second camera too, just so that you can get multiple angles of experiences too, right? So like your, for example, this video that we were filming where we're in an fMRI facility, it would be nice to have someone filming indoors and somebody outdoors, or maybe you're filming the same thing but from two different angles, and now if someone steps in your way, it's not a big deal because you have somebody who has a different angle that you can use. Anyway, it would be really nice to have two cameras, but we're not there yet. Someday. Anyway.
And then we went into the scanner.
Okay, so now she's getting into the scanner. We just want to show her in the scanner room, not necessarily in the scanner itself. Here's them giving a blanket, so we'll keep that for later. Do it like this. That's fine, I guess. I don't know. We might replace that later on. Let's just put it over here. The scanner. Then we went into the scanner. Okay, so we'll start here. But yeah, because then she's going to be putting in these earplugs. Boom, boom, boom. Just sort of moving all over the place, but that's okay. We'll grab that, pull it over, paste it in.
And then we went into the scanner. As Maggie and Steph set up the bed, I put in earplugs to protect my ears from the loud noises the machine makes. The machine uses a giant electric machine makes. The machine.
Okay, we'll cut there, find some more footage. Okay, so that was one perspective. Okay, we'll cut that. We're gonna bring it over. We'll see if this fits.
Thanks. The machine uses a giant electromagnet to perform the fMRI scan. And while it's running, it makes a very loud clicking sound. So the earplugs are important. Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and Maggie and Steph covered me with a blanket. That part is optional, but it gets pretty chilly in the scanner room. They slid the special headpiece down over my face and then wedged foam padding in around my head to keep it as stable as possible, so I wouldn't move during the scan and ruin the images. Then they handed me the emergency ball, which I could press at any time if I needed to come out of the machine, and the controller for responding to the task. Because I had to lie on...
Okay, so that footage isn't gonna work great.
Clicking sound, so the earplugs are important.
And this is your emergency excuse.
Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and Maggie and Steph covered me with a blanket. That part is optional, but it gets pretty chilly in the scanner room. They slid the special headpiece.
Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We've got the zoomed in footage of receiving these different the button box and stuff. Oops. There we go.
Stable as possible, so I wouldn't move during the scan and ruin the images.
Ready.
Then they handed me the emergency ball, which I could press at any time on the machine. Back in the machine. They use a color screen, mirror, and projector stuff, so it was not to move at all. Finally, they slid me into the scanner.
Okay, so we've got the ball first.
Finally, they slid me into the scanner. I was alone in the chilly dark, ready to start the task. The scan itself was ready to start the task. The scan didn't move at all. Finally, they slid me into the scanner.
Blah, blah, blah. We're gonna take this and move it over. This guy can go over here.
Then they handed me the emergency ball, which I could press at any time if I needed to come out of the machine.
But
And the controller for responding to the task. Because I had to lie on my back for responding to the task.
So we'll put it right there.
but
And the controller for responding to the task. Because I responding to the task. Because I had to lie on my back in the machine, they used my
Okay, cut that.
Then they handed me the emergency ball, which I could press at any time if I needed to come out of the machine.
Let's zoom in a little bit here, just to frame this up right. Let's see if that's still in view over here.
They handed me the emergency ball, which I could press at any time if I needed to come out of the machine. And the controller for responding to the task. Because I had to lie on my back in the machine, they used a complex screen, mirror, and projector setup so that I would be able to see the task directly over my mirror and projector setup so that I would be able to
Okay, sorry, I'm like scrubbing through this stuff, which might not be the most pleasant thing to listen to, but I'm just getting an idea of what we're dealing with.
oh, should be fine. Let me just
And they wedged in. And over there. that. Okay, we'll paste this over here. Oop, that is way too long. So let's see what.
Task. On my head to keep it as stable as possible, so I wouldn't.
Okay, so that's where we need this.
Wedge foam padding in. Part is optional, but it gets
probably
pretty
should not
chilly
use
in the
that.
scanner room.
Just for emergency.
Okay, this is where this part comes in. Yeah, we want to do this. Let's make it shorter.
They slid the special headpiece down over my face and then wedged padding in around my head to keep it as stable as possible, so I wouldn't move during the scan and ruin the image. Then they
So we're gonna do this. Just move everything over slightly.
They slid the special headpiece down over my face and then wedged foam padding in around my head to keep it as stable as possible, so I wouldn't move during the scan and ruin the images. Then they handed me the emergency ball, which I could press at any time if I needed to come out of the machine, and the controller for responding to the task. Because I had to lie on my back in the machine, they used a complex screen, mirror, and projector setup so that I would be able to see the task directly over my face without having to move at all.
Okay, so this is where we're gonna get Allie in the scanner. Do. See if we can find the right footage that we're looking for. No. Okay, it must be earlier on. Yeah, it's over here. Here we go. So we used a little bit of this before, if I recall correctly.
Okay, it's a little hard to do that when I can only.
Okay.
Let's see if that's good enough for our needs.
They used a complex screen, mirror, and projector setup so that I would be able to see the task directly over my face without having to move at all. Finally, they slid me into the
Oh, I see.
scanner, left the room, and I was alone in the chilly dark, ready to start the task.
Okay, we're just gonna put that actually right here.
Slid me into the scanner, left the room, into the scanner, left the room, and I was alone in the chilly dark, ready to start the task. This
Okay, that B-roll fits well there. Chris asked me what the video editing software I'm using is. So this is Adobe Premiere. It's a software that I've been using for a while now. There are a lot of good editing softwares out there. I happen to really like Adobe products, so I use a lot of them. I use Illustrator and Photoshop and After Effects, and it's what I'm familiar with, and so I like that they all work together to, it's just easy to like drop things from one program into another. But I know plenty of people who use Final Cut, as an alternative, or people who use Sony Vegas People who use free softwares like DaVinci. DaVinci has some really good editing software. Hit Films is another editing software. You know, those are free softwares that are above what you can get offered by iMovie or Windows Movie Maker, that sort of thing. But they're still really good quality. So anyway, but I use Adobe Premiere for my editing and then After Effects for the special effects stuff.
The scan itself was demanding, not because the task was hard, but because it's a lot more difficult to stay focused for that long than you might think. I had to stare at the screen for 2 hours and concentrate on the faces I was seeing so I could try to answer correctly. Not being able to move at all for 2 hours is tough. I couldn't scratch.
Okay, so we got this footage with the blanket. Let's see. She mentioned that earlier on. Where was that?
In earplugs to protect my ears from the loud noises the machine makes. The machine uses a giant electromagnet to perform the fMRI scan, and while it's running, it makes a very loud clicking sound, so the earplugs are important.
And this is your emergency.
Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and Maggie and Steph covered me with a blanket. That part is... Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and Maggie...
Blah, blah, blah. Let's try and zoom in. Go way over here so we can really isolate what we're looking at.
The machine uses a giant electromagnet to perform the fMRI scan, and while it's running, it makes a very loud clicking sound, so the earplugs are important. Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and...
Okay, so we can actually follow her slightly while she's doing that. Maybe we'll edit this in After Effects, but we can just move the position down slightly and over. Like that, and oops, too far. Then we can even grab these, and yeah, see, this is why I don't do keyframe in Premiere.
Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and Maggie and Steph covered me around the narrow bed, and
so there's some.
The screen for 2 hours and concentrate on the scene. I tried to
Yeah, we don't really have them covering her with a blanket. Okay. So that might be something that we want later on. Let's see if there's any other blanket covering footage. I guess she's already laid down. I think that's the hard part. It's like the order of the script is not conducive to the B-roll, because the way that we film the B-roll is in a different order. I guess we could use this maybe.
Alright. Ready?
Yeah, let's try that out. Okay. Bring it back here. Paste it in.
Maggie and Steph covered me with a blanket. That part is optional, but it gets pretty chilly in the scanner room. They slid the special headpiece.
So I sort of want it to end right there. Let's try this.
And Maggie and Steph covered me with a blanket. That part is optional, but it gets pretty chilly in the scanner room. They slid the special headpiece down over my face and then wedged foam padding in around my head to keep it as stable as possible, so I wouldn't move during the scan and ruin the images. Then they handed me the emergency ball, which I could press at any time if I needed to come out of the machine, and the controller for responding to the task. Because I had to lie on my back.
Here, Rick asked, so if right now is your first hour on the video, how many more times or days or hours do you expect to finish? Does Allie review during or at the end? What about the other people? Do they review? So this isn't actually my first hour on the video. So prior to even starting the stream, I edited down the filmed part that we did. So this part that you see on screen right now, that was all edited down to this 8-minute. It was probably about half an hour worth of film, and we got it down to about 8 minutes and 15 seconds. So that took time prior to this, and then maybe like 2 hours, maybe an hour and a half. And then now I'm working on this B-roll stuff, which we're moving through at a decent clip, but I've also got notes for more filming that we might do. We'll see if we have the time, but that's something that would be nice to have. And then after I go through all of this, I have to incorporate the interviews, and that'll take a little bit of time to go through all of that footage. That's really what takes a lot of time, is like just reviewing everything that we have. And then after that, I'll do animations, basic stuff. This one won't require a ton of animations. I think Allie mentions a few different brain areas at the end, but nothing crazy. And then after that, do background music. And then after that, do color correction. And after that, finish it up, I guess. Go through it, make sure it all flows okay. Do any final edits that need to happen. And it's done. So this is an easier video, comparatively speaking, just because it's not super animation heavy. And Allie will come and watch it. She'll come by and say, hey, can I see what you have so far? And we'll go through it. And usually she's much more involved when it's a topic video, where it's on a particular teaching point, a particular lesson or whatever it might be, because that's more technical and it might require more specific guidance. But in this case, I'm pretty much left to my own devices. I can edit it away, and it'll look good at the end. So that's pretty much how it goes. Yeah, I don't know, nothing else to say on that.
Back in the machine, they used a complex screen, mirror, and projector setup so that I would be able to see the task directly over my face without having to move at all. Finally, they slid me into the scanner, left the room, and I was
So we have a scene where she's being slid in before. Where is that? This guy.
Pretty narrow, and the space inside is kind of...
So we'll save this then. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of debating whether I even want to include this part or this clip. footage we have. So we want to show that the space is narrow. So preferably we want to clip where there's no one in the fMRI scanner. Scanner, in the scanner. Do we have any footage of the scanner without anybody in it? That's the question. Alright, we're going back to the source material because I don't believe that we don't have anything. Okay, this might be good. So let's try replacing some stuff. We're gonna grab this guy, move it over to there. And we're gonna take this, drop that there, and then see if we can find another section.
Doing something,
Oh, yeah.
maybe like.
Well, we need to. I mean, we need to fill out the form. We need to get Maggie
Oh, yeah.
on your computer.
Right.
We need to have her show us the tabs.
If we could actually just have like.
Hey! Looks like we got a new person joining, Angel. Nice to have you. What is going on here?
Cool.
Alright.
Sounds good.
What's this?
Got an angle you prefer? Over here, probably?
Sounds kind of interesting. It's just that my face is in there, but
Got an angle you prefer? Over here, probably?
I don't know. Let's try it out.
Claustrophobic.
So, oops. Where did I get this? This guy will just zoom in slightly. Move it over. There we go.
Oh, and the space inside is kind of claustrophobic. pretty narrow, and the space inside.
Yeah, it's not great footage. Ugh. Need something better than that. As well, so I'm like kind of not excited about using this one over again, but it serves a purpose in terms of getting across a point, you know, about what we're talking about. All right. Position more centered.
Is kind of claustrophobic, so side is kind of claustrophobic, so it's definitely not for everyone. Finally, they used a metal. The bed used for the scans is pretty narrow, and the space inside is. The bed used for the scans is. The bed used for the scans is pretty narrow, and the space inside is kind of claustrophobic. So.
All right, so that's something, at least. Here we go.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Now we're talking.
I just turned it back on.
Oh, gotcha. No, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Pick this part, and maybe we can just remove that altogether. I like that shot, but we used it in another video. So, let's see about this.
Is pretty narrow, and the space inside is kind of claustrophobic, so it's definitely not for everyone. Finally, they used a.
Just move that out slightly.
Finally, they used a metal detector wand, just like the kind a security guard might use, to check and make sure that I didn't have any forgotten metal on my body. And then we went into the scanner. As Maggie and Steph set up the bed, I put in earplugs to protect my ears from the loud noises the machine makes. The machine uses a giant electromagnet to perform the fMRI scan. And while it's running, it makes a very loud clicking sound. So the earplugs are important. Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and Maggie and Steph covered me with a blanket. That part is optional, but it gets pretty chilly in the scanner room. They slid the special headpiece down over my face and then wedged foam padding in around my head to keep it as stable as possible, so I wouldn't move during the scan and ruin the images. Then they handed me the emergency ball, which I could press at any time if I needed to come out of the machine, and the controller for responding to the task. Because I had to lie on my back in the machine, they used a complex screen, mirror, and projector setup so that I would be able to see the task directly over my face without having to move at all. Finally, they slid me into the scanner, left the room, and I was alone in the chilly dark, ready to start the task. The scan itself was...
Okay, that's a little bit better. We sort of switched around the order of things. I might actually switch around the order that Allie says things so that it lines up better with the B-roll that we have. So for example, when she's talking about receiving the ball and stuff, the stuff.
Me the emergency ball, which I could press at any time if I needed to come out of the machine, and the controller for responding to the task. Because I had to lie on my...
Okay, let's see if we can put that earlier.
The machine uses a giant electromagnet to perform the fMRI scan. And while it's running, it makes a very loud clicking sound. So the earplugs are important. Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and Maggie and Steph...
Okay, we're gonna put it right there.
Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and Maggie and Steph covered me with a blanket. That part is optional, but it gets pretty chilly in the scanner room. They slid...
Yeah, we're gonna put it right there. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll take all of this, move it over, and just grab the piece that we need, which I think is here.
Then they handed me the emergency ball.
Yeah. That part. Put it here. Move this back. Oh. Okay, let's see how that flows.
Very loud clicking sound. So the earplugs are important. Then they handed me the emergency ball, which I could press at any time if I needed to come out of the machine, and the controller for responding to the task. Then I laid down on the narrow bed, and Maggie and Steph covered me with a blanket. That part is optional, but it gets pretty chilly in the scanner room. They slid the special headpiece down over my face and then wedged foam padding in around my head. Down over my face and then wedged foam padding in around my head to keep it as stable as possible, so I wouldn't move during the scan and ruin the images. Because I had to lie on my back in the machine, they used a complex screen, mirror, and projector setup so that I would be able to see the task directly over my face without having to move at all. Finally, they slid me into the scanner, left the room, and I was alone in the chilly dark, ready to start the task. The scan itself was demanding, not because the task was hard, but because it's a lot more difficult to stay focused for that long than you might think. I had to stare at the screen for 2 hours and concentrate on the faces I was seeing so I could try to answer correctly. That part is optional, but it gets pretty chilly in the scanner room. They slid the special headpiece down over my face and then wedged foam padding in.
Okay. Alright, sorry, I'm like losing track of what I'm doing. So we've got a lot of B-roll in there already. We've been able to order things a little bit better. We're coming on almost 2 hours. I'll probably stop right at 2 hours so that I can eat and do some other stuff that I need to do. But I feel like we're making pretty good progress so far in adding this B-roll. Okay, let's keep on going.
Around my head. Because I had to lie.
Okay, we might add some B-roll here because I had to lie on my back. Actually, yeah. We had some footage earlier of Allie in the scanner. Let's try and find that. Here we go. This area.
Actually, thanks.
Because I had to lie on my back in the machine, they used a complex screen, mirror, and projector setup so that I would be able to see the task directly over my face without having to move at all. Finally,
I must have cut it there for exactly the same reason, which is
mirror and projector setup so that I would be able to see the task.
See, she's in there already, and we don't want her in there yet. We want. I just want to see her sort of going through this. Let's see about this. No, that's that. How about
3 hours?
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good. Let's put you in.
Great. Would I be able
oops. Let's try and paste that somewhere else. Okay, that's weird. Well, in that case, it's going to be difficult about it. I'll put this over here, and apparently I've used this footage elsewhere.
So I took the chance to be a part of the science.
Let's take that out. And we'll use it here instead. It will serve a better purpose over here. Okay.
Because I had to lie on my back in the machine, they used a complex screen, mirror, and projector setup so that I would be able to see the task directly over my face without having to move at all.
There we go.
Finally, they slid me into the scanner, left the room, and I was alone in the chilly dark, ready to start the task. The scan itself...
That was good. That was what we needed. All right. That flows because you see like a process going through the process, which is sort of what the whole point of the video is to show step by step what it would be like to go through a study like this.
Was demanding, not because the task was hard, but because it's a lot more difficult to stay focused for that long than you might think. I had to stare at the screen for 2 hours and concentrate on the faces I was seeing so I could try to answer correctly. Not being able to move at all for 2 hours is tough. I couldn't scratch my nose or stretch my...
Yeah, so we need more footage of Allie. More footage of Allie in the scanner itself. Okay.
my neck or anything. By the end, I was super tired. But I did it, and according to my scores, I was pretty good at the task too. A couple weeks later, I went back to do it all over again, so that Maggie and Steph would have 2 different sets of data to use for their pilot study. With this data, they're hoping to better understand how the brain understands faces at a high level. We know a little bit about how we see faces thanks to earlier research. For example, we've identified an entire brain. For the task I was doing, Maggie and Steph were using a previously published face. By having participants like me make decisions based on the faces they were showing me while I'm in the scanner, they're able to get a glimpse of which area. And that was it. But I feel good helping my friends.
Okay. Alright, so at the end here we might overlay some more B-roll, but that will be whatever we don't use in previous parts. So we can just sort of save this ending for later. I'm not that worried about it. Okay, so we've done about 2 hours worth of work with intermittent conversations about editing and stuff. You can see where we're at. We've gone through and grabbed a few different pieces of video to overlay as B-roll, trying to get the storytelling aspect of this down a little bit better. I don't think I necessarily had the best grasp of it when we started, but now it's making sense in terms of visually what we should be doing. And I've started constructing my list of extra footage that I want to get, so that this will really be a complete story. So anyway, I think I'm going to end it here. It's been a pleasure having y'all along with me, and I appreciate you being interested in this. This is a good way for me, at least, to stay on task and get things done, and it's always fun to talk with other people about editing and for people to get a glimpse into what that process looks like. So anyway, I guess I'll talk with you later, and have a great afternoon.